Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, of course, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you as always. Captain Brockway sitting in. And, of course, we're joined a special live today. We couldn't get with him yesterday because there was something going on. But Don, the great Don Fischer, joins us today. Don, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim.
Kevin Brockway with us as well. Big day for Indiana yesterday. First of all, I want to acknowledge the ladies' team, women's team. They had an incredible season, a great run. They went to the Elite Eight, but this is a top 10 team, and there's no reason to think that this is not going to continue with what Terry Moore is building. The players that's coming back, they are a solid, good program, and man, do they deserve a big-time shout-out.
Well, they do. There's no question about it. Terry did a tremendous job of building this program from the very beginning. Each and every year that she has been there, they just continue to climb up the ladder. And obviously this year has been their best. Without question, getting to the Elite Eight is a first-time program in Indiana. That's an achievement all by itself. Actually, everybody pointed they didn't make the Final Four, but in little steps, and that's kind of where these teams have taken little steps each and every year, but they're always the upward. And without question, her program is built with a culture there that specifies defense first. And man, I really enjoyed watching these play. They played so hard at the end of the floor. They dominated the first two matchups in the NCAA tournament. They had a really close call against North Carolina State, but they were the number one seed in that Mercado division and knocked them off. And then, of course, lost Arizona last night. But this is a season to remember, no question about it. But you can't believe that anything but good things are going to happen to this program because of the people.
Well, we may have lost Don there, but we'll get him right back. Talking about yes. Yeah, it was just a great, and they're just so fun to watch. Grace Berger, I'm convinced, is going to go down as the greatest player in Indiana women's basketball history. She is just a baller, and she is so fun to watch. She's not a scorer like I know people look at Tyra Buss, but Grace Berger, I think she's a pro.
She has all the tools, there's no question. She doesn't have great size. She is really a tough kid. She's got great fundamentals. She good shots 99% of the time. She is very selfish, and she just, as well as be able to score the basketball, really a treat to watch. She is so much fun to watch because she just does everything right. And there's no question she is special. I think she's got a chance to NBA. And I think Mackenzie Holmes does as well, although Mackenzie's got a couple more years to get ready for that scenario. But, man, she has been a terrific force for this Indiana women's basketball team for the last years now. She is just as special in my mind, and she probably has a bigger upside just because of her size and the ability that she has with both hands.
Yeah, they're going to be fun to watch, no doubt, and looking forward to that. Yesterday, of course, big news for Indiana basketball all the way around. On the men's side, of course, Mike Woodson being named head coach. So much is in that alone, Don. I don't even know really where to start. But you start back at the beginning because this kind of goes back to the beginning of, not the beginning of Indiana basketball, but the beginning of the last great run that Indiana had. And this is kind of getting back to that.
Well, with the hiring of Mike Woodson, you've got a former Indiana player. A lot of people in this program have felt has been needed. Mike was 1977 to had a terrific career in Indiana. Played the greatest individual performances that I have ever seen. Junior year of 79 season, in which he hit 48 points against the University of Illinois. In that one of the individual performances I've ever watched, the 8, which is the second most points ever scored by an Indiana basketball, 65 twice, I think it was. But just what a by Mike Woodson in that ball game. And then he came back his senior year and had back issues and had to have surgery during the season. He started I think the first 6 games of the year. And then he came back after missing, I think, 14 or 15 ball games, finished the season with 8 contests. Indiana to a Big Ten championship. They got beat in the second round of the NCAA tournament by Purdue. I think that was played in Lexington, but I'm not 100% sure. Nevertheless, they got, of course, the next year they were to win a national championship, which absolutely did. But they were seeing Randy Wood season because he had some kind of an ankle or foot injury. I can't remember which. Mike was for a really good basketball team. Not so much the 76-77 season, because he was also a part of the team that had the worst record under Bob Knight at Indiana. That team was 14-13 in his freshman year, and that coming off the national championship year, in which they'd gone 32-0 in 1976. So Mike has a background, obviously, in basketball. He has also a background in the NBA, as everyone knows. That's basically where he spent his career coaching after playing 11 seasons in the big league. And, the 30 years or right after years that he spent as a coach have been both as an assistant and a head coach. And with 2 experiences as a coach in the NBA, 6 years with the Atlanta Hawks and 3 with the New York Knicks, he did some remarkable things for the Rams while he was there and rebuilding them, or at least getting them to the playoffs. And he can coach. There's no question about that. X's and O's, that's not going to be a problem with Mike Woodson. He's an interesting guy. He comes up, very on all those kinds of action in this guy. That's pretty interesting, and without question, I think it'll be fun to see exactly how he goes with Indiana, because I think he's pretty reserved sidelines for the most part, but I think he can be good in that regard as well.
Yeah, Don, was there something that this is Kevin Brockway, was there something that you saw intangible in him during his playing career that suggested that he was going to be a coach, or what were those qualities, and how have they kind of shown to you over time?
Well, I think Mike was a really good leader. His last 2 years at Indiana, he was terrific in the way he played the game. But, as many points as he scored, he was the leading scorer the first 3 years he was at IU, and would have been his 4th year. His average was the best on that team at 19 points a contest. He just didn't get to play as many games as the rest of the team because of the surgery and the back problems that he had that season. But Mike scored over 2,000 points in his career, but it wasn't just his points. It was how he played as an individual, how he went about his business as a leader. He led by example, I think, more than he did from a verbal perspective. But he was very intelligent about the game of basketball, and he's got a great background in so many areas, not only as a player but as a coach. I didn't know that he would become a coach after he played, but I knew he wanted to be around basketball for as much of his life as he possibly could be. So it didn't surprise me he went into the coaching profession after he got out of his playing career in the NBA. So to be honest with you, I don't think there's any question he's got great leadership capabilities in that regard. And anytime a guy is like that and loves the game as much as he did, it's not surprising that he would have gotten into the game of basketball as a coach.
Last night, Don, I was fortunate to do a show with John Leskowski, Joe Hillman, Steve Risley was on, A.J. Moye, Eric Gordon Sr., but John Leskowski is always the greatest guy. I could listen to him talk, and you as well, guys like you, all day, the knowledge that he can impart and the stories he can tell. But one of those was about Mike Woodson and how he was just a kid, underprivileged kid in Indianapolis, and he couldn't afford to go to the Bob Knight camp, and a teacher paid for him to go, and he ended up winning a contest, and Bob Knight telling him, hey, when you're a senior, I want you to come play for me and this and that. And all that stuff ended up coming true. But his entire story is one of bringing yourself up. And now this guy was at the zenith of the sport at the NBA for all of these years, and is coming to Indiana. And I think Indiana fans are not as lucky as they realize, those that don't realize that, all that he brings. No one probably knows that more than you. You've been around, you saw his whole career, and you know where he's been. But I just don't think Indiana fans know what all they're getting, because there's been so much stuff going on. But Mike Woodson brings a ton of nothing but positives to the Indiana basketball program, to Indiana University, period, for that matter.
Well, there's no question. And like you say, Mike's background is such that there's no way you can criticize all you want in certain scenarios, but there's not much you can criticize about this selection. The one question I think most people have about anybody from the NBA coming to the college game as a coach is, how can you make that transition? Because without question, this is a big transition. He's never coached the college level. He's never recruited. He's never been in those situations, and the rules are different, a little different, certainly in dealing with players at the college level. And there are levels and so on, and that's why Scott Dolson on the hiring of Thad Matta as an associate AD of basketball administration. This guy will help Mike make this transition so much easier, just because of his knowledge of the game and what that's all about, dealing with the things that he's never had to deal with before, i.e. recruiting is the biggest part of that, in my opinion, because that's the name of the game. That you've got to be able to recruit players, and you've got to be able to do that in a systemic way, so to speak, that makes it comfortable for those players who are being recruited by you, knowing full well this program is going to be on an upswing, number one, but is going to be back to a tradition-rich status once again as well. And I think Mike can handle that very easily from, with the background that he has. At the same time, there's only one way that you measure it, and that's by winning. And Mike has always been a winner. There's no question about that. He's been with winning programs. He's been an innovator from a coaching perspective with a number of things that he's done, both defensively and offensively. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at Indiana. And probably as much of anything that's going to be important for this program, the pulling back of all the former players to get back together again in the sense of rooting for this program and help the program, what they do out there in public with in talking to friends and talking to organizations and their speeches, those kinds of things. I think this program is going to be back on a par with what we saw back in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, to the point where the team will, I think the program takes off again. I really do, if Mike can win, because that's the big question now. Can you get the players that it's necessary to win at this level? And recruiting is going to be the key to that, because there's no doubt in my mind, if they get the players, they will develop the players. And I think that's going to be the biggest scenario in this whole coaching change, because I know Mike believes very much in developing players and really getting these guys better as they go along in their careers.
Yeah. And Don, I think that's the key point too, not just the recruiting aspect of it, but, developing players and continuity. I mean, I'm covering the NCAA tournament, and I'm finding a lot of the best teams are the teams that have stuck around for 2 or 3 years. They've gotten old together. They've stayed old. And I know that's going to be a little bit of a building process, but I think if you do that, you're going to have a real shot to move up in the Big Ten.
Well, there's little doubt the game at the college level has changed. There's the one-and-done guys and the guys that want to go to the pros after their second year of college and those kinds of things. It makes it a bigger challenge than it's ever been for coaches. But you've got to be able to get that kind of athlete, and then you develop that kind of athlete. And if that athlete is that good, there's no choice. He has no choice but to go to the NBA, because he's going to make his payday when he can make it. And without question, that's the big challenge these days for coaches. But honestly, I think the real test is developing the players, getting these guys ready to play their best basketball at the college level. That's the one thing I think that's with this Indiana program here for the last couple of years now. They just haven't made real progress development of these players, and I think that's the big challenge right now facing Mike and getting those players, because without question, recruiting is going to be critical. So what does that mean? Well, that means he's going to have to really hire a great coaching staff, and great coaching staffs can combine for both recruiting and development. And if they can't get a great coaching staff, because that's, I think, the real key to this whole scenario that in the change for this Indiana basketball.
I couldn't agree, and I hate to say that this is the last time that we get to speak to Don for a while. He is the golf courses are calling now that the head coaches. He stayed longer. He stayed extra till they named the head coach. They've got that done, and it's over. Unfortunately for all of us, but Don, I can't thank you enough. It's the best 6 months that we get out of the year, but look forward to restarting in the fall. But I hope you have a great, enjoyable summer.
Well, I mean, if I'm playing golf, it's as enjoyable as it gets for me, because of all the things that I do outside of doing play-by-play of basketball games and those kinds of things, golf is my next passion. So, and even though I'm not very good anymore, and not that I ever was great, but I was better than I have been lately. Let's put it that way. But I'm looking forward to getting out on the golf courses as much as possible. Today is one of those days. I'm going to get out there today because I know it's going to be 70 degrees, and I know a couple of days after that are going to be packed out either in the 40s or the 50s, whatever the case may be, even into the 30s, I'm hearing. So this is one of those days this week that after I hang up with you, everything is going to be slotted toward the golf course for the rest of the day.
We're holding him up. Don, I cannot thank you enough, buddy. I've got a sneaking suspicion I probably will see you over the summer. Hopefully it's on the golf course, sir. I hope you have a great one. I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to it.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Enjoyed being on the program, and maybe we'll get this fixed next year for the sound system that we have, because I have to listen really carefully to hear every word you guys are saying.
Yep, don't worry. This is the last time we've got. You'll have to deal with that. So we're looking forward to that as well. But the great Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, so grateful that had to have him join us over these last several months, and looking forward to it again. Don, have a great summer.
Great summer. You too.
Thank you, sir. Man, I love talking to Don. I'm going to miss that. He just always brings a great perspective, because you love his historical looks at it, and look forward to getting to talk to him. But we'll get him back on. But he's right. I mean, he's as close to that as anybody. John, you need to drop out of that. But or we'll just go ahead and go to a break now, and we'll come back to pick up Mike DeCourcy next here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore.
You got to drop out, man. Whatever it is about yours is causing this echo.
Can you hear me now?
I can never not hear you. It's just an echo.
Let me figure this out.
Yeah, you've got something back channel.
Does that help me?
No. You've got something hooked up wrong.
Okay, how about this?
Yes.
Okay. I have no clue what was going on there.
Well,
I promise. I have no idea.
There's still an echo. But it might not be there when you're there. But see, when you're using your mic, you have your mic open and you're using your phone. That's two incoming sources. You can't do that.
I'm not using the phone now, though.
Well, you were a minute ago.
Well, I was using the phone for the mic because that's what was. You said that was the issue, so I unplugged the line.
Well, but there's feedback. There's feedback right now somehow.
Echo chamber.
Yes. Yes. Drop out for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Kevin?
Test 1, 2, 3. Test.
See, there's nothing. There's no issue. You've got something not connected correctly. But you can go ahead and bring Michael in. Mike, I should say. And you can drop out. There's no reason. Well, I guess you can't drop out because we can't hear anything, can we? Hello, Mike.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
Oh, we're just peachy, just dealing with these little technical problems. Other than that, it's been already a great day, great start to the day. Just got off with Don Fischer. And now I'm talking to the great Mike DeCourcy. Man,
I was going to say, man, you're coming down now. You're stepping way down in class.
Talking about, man, that's just like hitting. I'm going for the cycle.
Yeah, I'm the single.
No, I've already hit. Kevin was a single.
Yeah.
Actually, well, you were first up.
You don't have to get him in order.
That's right. That's true. Hey, man, this is a grand slam. This is a grand slam cycle.
Mike, were you at Lucas Oil last night or no?
Stay to dine and to
He
play.
can't hear us.
We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants.
Man, there's so much to talk about.
That is out of this world. World-class golfing and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer here on this Tuesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Kevin Brockway sitting in. We just finished up with the great Don Fischer. Now going to the great Mike DeCourcy. Man, it's a heck of a day already. Mike, how are you, sir?
I feel bad for you, Jim, because you've stepped really down in class to go from the as good a voice as there is in the game of basketball to me.
So one of the best writers in the business. I think we're going for a grand slam cycle, man. I think that's where we're headed today. But man, of course, there's a couple things to go over, and I don't want to. Obviously, the men's hire with Mike Woodson is the biggest one, so I'll save that for last. The Baylor-UConn game last night in the women's game. What a hell of a game, but you hate to see them in like that. But then you're like, there's other fouls called. But man, when it's the last foul and it's a game, one that the game hinges on, and a trip to the Final Four on top of that. Boy, it looked like a couple of officials just swallowed their whistles.
Yeah, I've always been a believer that the idea of let the players decide the game is just atrocious. Why can't we let the players decide the game when a guy's driving the ball to the basket and somebody jumps in front of him and fakes a charge? Why can't we let the players? Well, instead, we worry about the fouls called in the final minutes. Look, if you violate the rules, you have helped to decide the game one way or the other. And that play, I've only seen it a little bit, so I can't really make a great judgment on it. I've seen still photographs. I'm not a believer in judging off of still photographs. Video, you can look. Live, obviously, if you're there, or if you were watching on television, you can look. I don't believe in still photographs to give you a honest picture of what happens in real life. So the photographs that are on the internet mean nothing to me. But the live video suggests that there was a foul committed. And I'm a believer that you officiate the rules the same in the last 20 seconds as you do in the first 20 seconds. And that if you do it otherwise, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think the officials, their placement, there was an official behind the play. So I guess afraid to call that. The official that was under the basket, I think he was looking in a different direction. But no one was looking directly at the front of the play.
How could you not be looking at the ball on a last shot?
That was my question. I'm like, what is he looking at? I was like, what in the world? But crazy to see that end. Of course, UConn get the benefit. It's all kinds of stuff you could talk about. But man, it was a great game. You hate to see that. Then you see the Indiana women's team, their shot at the Final Four. Heck of a run for them. That program is on the rise. There's no reason to think that they're not going to stay there. They're competing with the best. Mike, they're up there competing with these teams that are the best in women's basketball.
Yeah, when I lived in Cincinnati, Xavier made a run to the Elite Eight. And they had a really nice program then. And the head coach was plucked away by Ohio State, I believe. And they never, it never was like that after that. I suspect it's a little harder to find up from Indiana than it was from Xavier, especially then. They were still an Atlantic 10 program. But that's a big key, is to build on what they did this year. To take the success that they had, the wonderful success that they had, and try to build on that and try to be, this was a great year for Big Ten women's basketball, maybe as good as we've had certainly as good as we've had in my memory. And so, Maryland's great, Michigan's terrific. So it appears that if you can compete with the best in the Big Ten, then you are there in the team picture, so to speak, with the best in the country. So now the key for IU is to consistently be there in that company. And I think that based on what we've seen over the last month and a half, whatever, that they're certainly going in that direction.
And I think I saw Ohio State during the regular season. They played Indiana and beat them in Assembly Hall. And they would have been formidable, but they had some rules issues or something this year that they didn't play. But they're like you said, a lot of good programs in the Big Ten this year.
And let's get to the big news, of course. Indiana names a new volleyball coach yesterday. No, just kidding. New basketball coach for Indiana named yesterday. And I don't know, there was still some surprise to it. Probably not a lot. But, yeah, there was still a lot of surprise, I think, when it finally came out of who it was going to be. But I think the more it sat there, people really started to embrace it. I know I have, but I don't know. There's a lot of questions yet with Thad Matta, which those questions are being answered. Larry Brown's name coming out. So there's a lot of questions, the staff. But I think for Indiana, this is probably a very, very good thing, Mike.
Well, I think that Mike has shown himself to be an excellent basketball coach. His success with the Hawks. You look at the Knicks, which has been as dysfunctional a professional sports organization as there has been in America over the last 20 years or so, and until this year when it was taken over, the basketball operations were taken over by a different group, and they have trended in the right direction this year. But prior to 2020-21, you look back over the previous 20 years of Knicks basketball, and the only beacon of competence or close to excellence was Mike's tenure. I guess it was around 10 years ago or so, maybe a little less than 10 years ago. That was the only time it looked like they were moving in the right direction. And of course, they abandoned it as soon as they had any setback at all. And that's why they were the Knicks. But he's an outstanding basketball coach. The challenge for him is that being an outstanding NBA coach and being a outstanding college coach are only tangentially related, really. The things that make a great NBA coach, a lot of it can be transmitted, but what it's transmitted to is only a portion of the job. The ability to draw up the right plays or to execute the high-level strategies and to teach and to get players to buy into those strategies is only I've always said it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 35% of a college coach's job. And then there's the 15% of making sure that your players are, doing the right things, going to class, staying on track to graduate, being good citizens, so to speak. And then there's about half or so that involves player acquisition and or management. That has always been the biggest chunk of a college coach's job, because you could be the greatest strategist in the world, and if you got 5 guys who can't play, it just doesn't matter. I mean, you may win more games being a great strategist than you would being an adequate strategist or a poor one, but you're not going to beat significant teams. You're not going to have significant success if your players are poor. You can raise up a group of good players to a very good team or very good players to a great team, but you can't make bad players into much more than a below average team. And so that's why it's such an important part of the job. And it's totally different than in the NBA, where you can sign them as free agents or select them in the draft. You have to sell those players on coming to play for you. And then once you have them, you have to sell them on, now more than ever. You have to sell them on staying with you, that this is the only place that they should possibly want to be. And that's a real tricky challenge for every coach in college basketball now. And it's something that Mike is going to confront. The positive for him is that he's never done it any other way in college. I mean, he doesn't have 20 years of habits of doing it this way, and it was wildly successful. And now he's got to change because the transfer portal is beckoning. So he has that advantage, but there is much that he needs to learn about running a college program. And that's why having someone who has been a highly successful coach is an advantage in that circumstance. You go back to Fred Hoiberg, when he left the Timberwolves front office to become the head coach at Iowa State, he immediately hired Bobby Lutz. And Bobby's name may not be as familiar to some, but he was a really terrific coach at UNC Charlotte back in the 90s. They were going toe-to-toe with some of Bob Huggins' best teams in those periods. He was really successful, and they got to the point where they thought they could do better and made a change, and they've been irrelevant ever since. Bobby's a great basketball coach, and Fred having Bobby to teach him about being a college coach was really important. And so when Juwan Howard got the Michigan job, same thing. He hires Phil Martelli. St. Joe's was really foolish to remove Phil, and now he's got Phil there. And I think sometimes people think that having that person is more important from a strategic standpoint, but what it really is more about is just navigating the waters of what it is to be a college coach. It helps to have smart people next to you to get good ideas and all that, but it really, if you're a head coach, it comes down to how you process the information you're provided, either by what you read in a coaching textbook, or what you pick off video, or what you've been taught in the past by the people you've worked for and with, and also what your staff is telling you. But you still have to process all of that and make the decisions. But the things that Martelli brought to Michigan in the last few years, or that Bobby Lutz brought to Iowa State when Fred had his success there, those things really more involve the day-to-day operations. How do we do this? How do we stay in compliance? How do we, who do we look at to recruit? All those kinds of things. It's not about you have to have a smart guy sitting next to you to help you call the plays. It's about you have to have an experienced person next to you who knows how to run a college program. If your only background in the college game is you played 40 years ago.
Mike, what do you make of the Larry Brown rumors? I mean, he's 80. He was at SMU a few years ago. Obviously, Kansas and the NBA background.
I don't think they're rumors.
What would he potentially add if Mike Woodson was to bring him in?
Still with us, Mike?
Did we lose him?
Oh, it's usually unusual. He's on a connection. He'll jump back on there. We haven't lost him yet. But yeah, I don't think those are rumors, Kevin. This is something that came up. I was at 4 years ago, I believe. 4 years ago, when the job was open last time. He made it. He made it known. He wanted the job and Larry Brown was a part of that. It was rumored then, but you can see that it was actually true. JB, one of my guys, sent me some video of some other people kind of mocking that 4 years ago, laughing at that scenario. And actually, it's a real scenario. But I would see him as just someone in a Larry Brown has coached everywhere. as we all know, he's coached in every level and everything, and his mind is just a book of knowledge. As Mike joins us back talking about Larry Brown and what he can add, man, that dude's got I mean, it's like he's like a Rick Pitino. If he didn't have the baggage, he'd probably still be a head coach somewhere. Well, he wouldn't be. He's 80, but he could be. But man, oh man, the wealth of knowledge those guys have, it's incredible. And I think that knowledge is useful, Mike.
Oh, I mean, Larry Brown is as gifted a basketball coach as there's ever been. I mean, it's that simple. He has a mind for the game that very few have ever equaled. He just is phenomenal. That's why he had been so successful going back and forth from college to the NBA. He's someone that really understands basketball at a next level, and so it can never hurt to have that level of ability around your program. Certainly, and Thad. When Thad was healthy, I mean, Thad was on a Hall of Fame track. He was absolutely a phenomenal college basketball coach, and that's that again how his association with the basketball program will work. You're not a coach. I'll be curious to see. I don't know that that's been tried a ton, but again, like I said before, it's not about necessarily being on the bench as much as it is helping someone navigate the ability to run the program. To who do you talk to? Who do you need to know in recruiting? How do you build good relationships with the AAU coaches and the high school coaches? And forgive me for not saying high school coaches first, because I know I live in Indiana, so I should have said high school coaches first. But those are the things that I think Thad can unquestionably assist Mike Woodson with.
Well, what I've been told, and they really wanted him as head coach. They did, and there's a lot of truth to that story. And they thought they were going to be able to get him as head coach, and when that was found out not to be true, Mike wants an admin around him. And Scott has said, we've got a lot of teams that are doing well. I can't get to 24 people, and Thad Matta is his admin guy that he's going to see every day. He'll be able to talk to him every day, and that is. And he has a wealth of knowledge in the Big Ten, of getting acclimated to the college game. There are so many different things that he can help him with, just because he can't be the head coach. But Mike Woodson is going to be the head guy, and so it's going to be, I think, a fun, interesting run. It's going to be interesting to see who the assistant coaches are for me. That's what I'm interested to see who he brings on.
One of the things that Juwan has done really well, I mean, exceedingly well, is scouting. I mean, that's something that he's been great at. Mike Smith, the transfer from Columbia, was someone that he was able to watch, and an unconventional player, and he had to envision Mike as a pass-first point guard when he'd been the best player at Columbia and took the vast majority of shots. Because they needed him to. And he was able to see in Mike Smith the ability to be a pass-first point guard, and was able to sell Mike on, look, this is what you're going to be. I know what you're used to, but you can't be that now. You have to be this. We've got Isaiah Livers and Franz Wagner, and we've got Hunter Dickinson coming in, and we've got Eli Brooks. We got guys who can put the ball in the basket, and we don't need you to score 24 points a game. And he was able to sell him on that. And he was able to see in Hunter Dickinson something that others maybe didn't see as quickly. And Hunter has been one of the 3-4 best freshmen in college basketball. That's not a common story, guys. When you have the guy who's basically the 43rd rated player in a high school recruiting class, and he turns into immediately one of the 3 or 4 best freshmen. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. So you have to have a good eye. And that's the most underrated part of recruiting, I think, is that eye for talent, the ability to see what might be. That's what won Jim Calhoun 3 championships. He was the best at that. He saw Shabazz Napier and saw a guy, you look at Shabazz, he can't jump that well. He's not that quick. He's small. but he saw a star, and he was 100% right. And that's something that, again, that Mike will have to show. He's not really. That's not been a big part of his job in the past. He's had to develop talent and he's had to manage talent, but for the most part, he has been a coach, not necessarily a scout. So it's not been as big a part of his background. But then again, Jawan, it wasn't a big part of his background either. I mean, he was an assistant coach on the staff and, of course, a player for 20 years. And he was still able to show that off very quickly. So Mike might walk in and dazzle us with his ability to see talent that others miss.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it is going to be very interesting. I mean, Tom Green, for any of his failures, you got to give him credit for finding people like Victor Oladipo and OG Anunoby and Juwan Morgan, those guys that were not NBA types, but they became that. So yeah, developing that talent, and I think that Mike Woodson has that eye, but he's going to have a lot of people around him to help him do that. Mike, I hope you enjoy the rest of the tournament. Houston, let's see, Baylor, we got winners there. What do you have predictions for the Final Four?
Well, we still have two more members to be set tonight. I'll be fascinated to see how Gonzaga handles the defense that Andy Enfield has conjured with the Trojans. That'll be interesting. And then, of course, Michigan versus UCLA, a chance for the Big Ten still to get a team into the Final Four after all the guff they took for the poor early round performance.
Isn't that amazing?
To see if they could get a win. After all the – I'm sorry?
I said, isn't it amazing? The Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I mean, just the reversal of fortune.
Yes. But after all the carnage early in this tournament, there's still a chance tonight that we could end up with a Final Four consisting of 3 number 1s and a number 2 seed. Wouldn't that be interesting after everything that happened on the first couple days?
It would be shocking. It would absolutely be shocking, because when is the last time that many number 1s made it, Mike? It's been quite some time, hasn't it? Let's see.
I can't remember the last time we had 3 1s and a 2. Of course, it's easy to recall the only time we've had 4 1s. That was 2008. So that may be the last time we got close to the 3. But there's no question SC and UCLA are going to give it their best shot to disrupt those plans.
How crazy would it be for the Pac-12 to get 2 teams into the Final Four? I mean, that would cap off the craziness of the crazy year, without question. But man, Michigan they've risen up. After Isaiah Livers went out, I had them getting beat and had other Big Ten teams going forward on my brackets. But of course, I'm an idiot when all the other teams got waxed, and Michigan has risen up. And I think that they're going to beat UCLA as well and go to the Final Four. I hate to say that for Michael Lewis, but I think that's going to happen.
Well, I had them losing in the regional final to Alabama, and if that game had happened, I might still feel that was the way it was going to go. But Alabama got sucked into a what do they call that? What's the word they use? Rock fight against UCLA, which is the only way UCLA could win. Really, was to make it a half-court game, and they were very successful at that. They did a great job of guarding the 3-point line and made Alabama impatient. It'll be different trying to do that with Michigan because Michigan can throw the ball into the post and get something out of Hunter. They've got a guy in Franz Wagner who is starting to understand how he can impact the game. Shondae Brown is coming off the bench and doing exceedingly well in this tournament. He's the one who has made up the most for Liver's absence in terms of production, Wagner in terms of influence. So fascinating games tonight, no question about it. Should be a lot of fun.
Mike, and don't forget, I was at that game 11-25 for the foul line for Alabama. I mean, that was just brutal. They're going to have all off season to work on those free throws, unfortunately.
Well, Mike, I can't thank you enough for joining us, man. Look forward to recapping next week, as we'll know what the I guess by then we'll know who the champion is. So we'll have a lot to talk about. But a big week for Mike, staying busy. I appreciate you so much.
We will know who the champion is. That is correct.
All right. Mike DeCourcy, the great Mike from
I enjoyed it very much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. From Sporting News in the Big Ten. And we've got plenty more coming back right after this from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Back right after this.
Welcome to your extra.
Okay. Now let's roll.
Let's roll.
Kevin Brockway.
Do we have Chronic on next or no?
Not on today. He cannot make it today. And
all right.
I've reached out to Martha the Mop Lady.
Martha's coming on or no?
I don't know yet, but even if they do, it'd be just a segment. But we got a short segment here, then the entire 10 to 10:30 segment to talk about whatever you wish.
All right.
And what do you have out right now?
Well, I've got Michigan UCLA tonight. I'm going to be there, so that's going to be good. That'll be a lot of fun. And just NCAA tournament stuff, and I'm working on a story. What?
I hate not getting to go to any games. It sucks.
I know it's.
In any other freaking year,
we'd all be there.
We'd all be there.
I know.
Damn.
We can talk about Kelvin Sampson going to the Final Four.
That's a great topic.
Hey, do I sound better now?
Yep.
Is there any echo?
Nope.
There's echo or okay.
Nope.
I think it had to do with my headphones because during the Don Fischer stuff, I didn't have my headphones because he had to be able to hear you all. So that's my explanation for that.
We have got to get that resolved because there's going to be people that make phone calls, and that is just driving me insane. It should be the simplest thing in the world.
I know. I will get with Will, and we will figure something out.
There's got to be a patch cord that goes from the phone into something.
Yep.
Well, that's what I was using initially, but that sounded awful as well.
Well, that's not correct, but something's not connected correctly. There was feedback. Something has to be turned down, turned off, unconnected. When that goes in, it created an issue. So we just got to find that stuff out. Okay. And it's driving, but that's been going on for forever.
Forever and ever.
Thank God he's the last phone call.
Yeah, it was driving me nuts too.
Not as much
because I feel like it's my fault, and I apologize for the fact.
I should have had. Will asked if he should have been on today, and I said no. I think we're good, but I forgot about the phone call, so I should have had him on. Woo. I don't know what happened to Todd Leary.
Brand new Honda from Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, Andy Moore Honda. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, where more means more. More selection, more savings.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda.
I can't hear you.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
I breathe in, I breathe out. Sleeping all night with the windows down. Up in the morning.
Welcome back to the Eagle Point Studios here on this Tuesday, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. If you're a Hoosier fan, yeah, you should probably go buy a vehicle from Andy Moore Honda. Just saying. New coach in Indiana, Mike Woodson, Kevin Brockway. It's not anybody that's disappointed. They're disappointed because they wanted this monster name. They wanted this splash. And I think people have gotten a splash don't mean jack. Just watch what happens. How can I don't understand how anybody can be upset about anything because they don't know how anything's going to go. They don't know who the assistant coaches are going to be. There's just a lot of things to work out. I think it's going to be the best hire they've made since Bob Knight, probably. And that's saying over Kelvin Sampson, who without Kelvin Sampson's issues, he'd probably be here and maybe would have hung a banner right now as he's heading to the Final Four right now with Houston, another team. So unfortunately, he could not stay on the right side of the rules. Even though it was ticky-tack crap, it was still breaking the rules, and he'd gotten in trouble for the previous year. But I really think that this is going to be the hire that brings Indiana back together. And not only that, Kevin, I think this is going to lead the next hire, when that comes, whenever that is, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now, another IU guy. And I think this is going to start because then you're going to have more people out there that have a lot more experience. You'll have Michael Lewis out there that he probably would have been a head coach by then. Calvert Chaney will have a lot more experience. There's going to be a lot more options that I think are the type that people were looking for this time. But I think this is going to work out better than they think.
Scott Dolson, I thought it was interesting, obviously his connection to the program going back to a student manager in the 1980s. You kind of had the feeling that someone with Indiana, an Indiana guy, quote unquote, was going to get strong consideration. And I know we had debated that earlier, when Archie was on the rocks, whether an Indiana guy was the right fit or do you just go for the best guy? And listen, they might have swung at Brad Stevens, in terms of going for him first. But, Mike Woodson brings a lot to the table in terms of, his experience as a NBA coach. And I thought it was very interesting during the Zoom call yesterday when Scott said, somebody told me we're looking for a normal guy. That was kind of telling, and maybe a swipe at Archie in terms of,
What do you think? Exactly. Who do you think that was a swipe at? And that's the thing that gets me. They're also saying these nice things. Oh, we have to thank Archie. He was great to work with. Bull crap. No, he wasn't. He was a jerk. He didn't treat the media worth of crap. And here's a great point. I put this up, but last night on we did a show with John Leskowski, Steve Risley, who played with Mike Woodson, with Joe Hillman, AJ Guyton, and Eric Gordon Sr. But one of the most telling things, John Leskowski met with Thad Matta yesterday and Mike Woodson yesterday. He just happened to be around there and got to speak to both of them. Almost had Mike Woodson on our show that we did last night. He wanted to come on. I'm sure you put a kibosh on that, but he told John, he said, "Hey, I'm doing a show tonight." He said, "Well, what time is it? Give me the stuff. I'm coming on." And that's the difference, though, right there. That is the difference already. Archie is the only IU coach that has not ever been on the show. Archie is the only coach I can say I haven't had really a conversation with. At a high school game once, you try to talk to him. He's just a whatever. But that trickles down. I said that on this show. You're going to tell me that doesn't trickle down to recruiting? Hell yes, it does. You can't be a jerk all the time and then fake being nice. This doesn't work. And to have these people say that, you can see it. It was palpable. It was palpable to me how they played. They played like they were in handcuffs. It was that guy was worth $10 million to get him the hell out of here.
Yeah, no, I think that, and you bring up the media points and stuff, but just, a guy that, walks around the office in the athletic, probably offices and just doesn't have his head down and is going to interact with people. I think that goes a long way too. And Mike Woodson comes across, like you said, as a people person. And I think that's going to be very important going forward. And you think with his connections to the state and his story, he's going to be active in the community also and selling this program and bridging that gap, as he said, with the tradition to the new age. I think that's going to be very important because I think under Archie, you just didn't have that. You didn't have that feel of Indiana basketball being a part of the greater state or him, providing that outreach. And I think it's going to crystallize to all areas, especially if they have success. And it might not happen overnight, but if you look at Mike Woodson's track record, within 2 or 3 years, he turns it. In the NBA, he's done that at both his programs with the Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. And as long as you have a little bit of patience, And we'll see what happens with the transfer portal, and we'll see who stays and who goes. But I think the development piece, too, that's going to be critical. And I think continuity is important. Although in the transfer portal, it's harder to do that. But you look at that Baylor team that's going to the Final Four. I mean, they've been around a while. They've had guys, a nucleus of guys that have been together for 2 or 3 years. And I still think that that's important. You got to, get guys in your program, develop them, and keep them playing together. And if you do that, you're going to have a lot of success. I think that, getting old and staying old and having a group that plays together. I've seen it at Florida, trust me. When they won the national championships in 06 and 07, there was continuity and chemistry there. And even their last team in 2014, they had 4 seniors that had played together for 4 years. I still think that's really critical.
Okay. There's a Tim put up, maybe he can get a deal on Archie's home. Archie, I heard Archie's home is sold already. I heard this was not today. I've heard his home is sold already, and it does not shock me at all.
I saw his wife's Instagram pictures. They were somewhere tropical last week. Apparently, he took off and headed for a vacation, I guess, to clear his mind somewhere warm.
Well, he's got $10 million to spend. It's a hell of a vacation. Okay, let's see. John, where are we on a break? I thought we were supposed to hit one at 9:51, but if we're good, we're good. But I think we're time to hit one right now. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll be. Is that right, John?
Yes, sir.
Producer John. All right, let's hit a break, and we got lots more coming up here on Indiana
Yes,
Sports
sir.
Beat. We're going to talk about all of that, current players, potential assistants. There's just tons to get to. The NCAA tournament. What do you think about Kelvin Sampson being in the Final Four? I know that makes a lot of people angry. So much. Stick around. We got lots more coming up here from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Back after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than.
Back after this.
So were we late there?
Were you not
Looks
going
like
to
we
10?
were. What?
Were you not going to 10?
Well, I don't know what time we started at.
You still do 10 and 10 and then 10:30.
Right. So we started right at 9.
Yes.
Okay, because normally we start at 8:55. Okay, so that's why it threw me off.
We're
So now we're short.
short.
Well, we're only short for the first hour. It doesn't really matter. The break won't be at the top of the hour when it's on radio.
I got you. I'm sorry. I'm having a real bad day evidently with this.
It's all new, man. New producer.
It shouldn't be though. Last week was
Kevin, John, Kevin.
Thanks, John.
Hey,
Can you
Kevin, I
show
think I
your
met
face?
you last week.
Can you show your face? Not that I want to see it. But...
give me 1 sec.
Hey, he got to co-host
Hello.
yesterday.
Yeah.
There's John. John's going to be the permanent producer.
So what happened to Will?
Well, Will's fine. Will's still around, just that John is former radio producer, sports show radio producer, and gives me one person
I have hosting experience.
and a backup host if and when I need it, because God knows I am taking freaking a vacation
Kevin's
at some
not
point.
right now. Today's been a disaster.
Well, I am. We might call it. I think not next week, but the week after that, I'm going to be in Florida for my birthday. So I will be. I think it's the 16th, or I'm going to probably take that week off.
Man, I did this show during my mother's funeral. Not during the actual funeral, but I mean the week that I was down there. Every morning I did the show from the house. And actually the time before that, when I was down there visiting.
You're a trooper.
No, well, that's about my batteries are about shot.
Yeah.
Especially after this last run and that deal that, I want to talk about the Mata deal, and I'd love
To stay, to dine, and to play. We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle here with you, as well as Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Kevin joins us each Tuesday, as always. Kevin, you're heading back up to when's your next game?
No, I got tonight. I got Michigan UCLA. That's going to be fun. It's kind of interesting because they separate the courts. Obviously, there's one court on one side of Lucas Oil. There's another on the other side. And because of the media, it's 25 per. So you can't really go to both games. You kind of have to pick and choose which games you're going to. So I will not be on the side with Gonzaga USC, but I could probably peek over around the curtain and get there early and see the end of the game. But they're being released from COVID, temperature checks, the whole 9 yards. But I've been fortunate.
Where are they going to play the Final Four?
No, I mean they will play the Final Four at Lucas Oil also. But
why not at Baker's Life?
Apparently, they wanted the capacity at Lucas Oil. Maybe the Pacers are playing. I don't know how they spread up, but it was fun. I was at Hinkle on Sunday.
But what I'm asking is, if they're going to play at Lucas Oil, okay, for the Final Four, is it going to be one court?
I don't know yet. I think it's probably going to be split courts. I bet again. I think a lot of it has to do with like sanitizing the courts and sanitizing the areas.
That's the biggest bunch of crap.
They've split Lucas Oil Stadium in half, where fans come in on one side, and then for the other game they come in on the other side. It's like literally like there's like a partition. It's very interesting how they've kind of split it, but this is kind of the COVID environment. But it was fun going to Hinkle on Sunday. That Alabama UCLA game, being there for that was one of the coolest games of the tournament, obviously. And like you said, feel really good for Michael Lewis. And I know you had him on the show. I did a story on him last week. And that UCLA team, I mean, Mick Cronin has done a tremendous job with that program. Losing 4 in a row, they barely get in as an 11 seed or first 4 team. And here they are in the Elite 8. I had posted that poll, if you remember, last week also, that, best coach who has yet to make a Final Four. And I included Mick Cronin on there. And here he is, the Elite 8. I had Scott Drew on there. He's in the Final Four. Leonard Hamilton didn't make it. Matt Pater still hasn't made it. And Leonard Hamilton actually won going away. He was at about 45%. But Scott Drew made it, and now a chance for Mick Cronin to make it tonight.
Yeah, Mick Cronin, another one of those names that was ignored by Fred Glass 4 years ago, who has done a marvelous job with UCLA. They were last year, they had a good run, and then this year, of course, potential Final Four run. Michael Lewis on that bench. It'll be interesting to see if Michael Lewis is one of the guys that Mike Woodson talks to. The fact that he's in Indianapolis probably makes that somewhat easier. I don't know how much time he has right now, though. It would be by Zoom probably. But I did like the comment that Mike Woodson made yesterday. He said initially that Scott wanted to do a Zoom with him. He said, no, you want to talk to me, you're getting on a plane or I'm getting on a plane.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I thought that
was probably telling to Dolson right there.
Yeah, he is old school. He is face-to-face guy. I mean, obviously he's 63 years old, and he believes in that, the relationship, the face-to-face, sitting down in front of someone. And in this COVID environment, obviously, that's difficult. I'm sure they were socially distanced during the interview and wearing masks, right, the whole 9 yards. But hopefully we will get past that soon, and by in the fall we can get back to those kind of face-to-face conversations because everyone is – I think kind of zoomed out at this point, but no, I did like that. I like the fact that, and that's going to be important. It's going to be, so much of this game is, in recruiting, it's a relationship business, and it's not all about getting the 4 or 5 stars, and getting sucked in and having, these recruiting analysts help you recruit. I mean, trust your own eyes, trust your own instincts. How many times, that's what Mike DeCourcy made that great point with Juwan Howard. And I saw that with Billy Donovan too. It's like finding those guys that aren't necessarily at the top of the recruiting rankings. Yeah, it's great to get talent and it's great to get, one of those guys, but you also got to find those complementary pieces and those guys that are going to be willing to work, willing to develop. How much do they love basketball? I mean, I think that's all important in recruiting. It's not just, get as many 5 stars as you can get, because we've seen, plenty of teams do that and, not have the success that you want.
No doubt. And I'm looking forward to seeing. I think that the players, Trace Jackson Davis, without question, there's no doubt I see him staying. I mean, this is the guy he needs. Trace Jackson Davis needs Mike Woodson more than anybody else on this team, I think, because Trace Jackson Davis is the closest pro prospect at the moment. And he needs him. He needs him, a guy that has spent all that time in that league. I think that alone is going to benefit Trace Jackson Davis, which is going to benefit this team if he stays, which I would be surprised. Christian Lander, it's a guess. And it's totally if when they spoke, they were supposed to speak yesterday. If he seems like this is the style of play that he wants to play, I have heard that he has spoken to Louisville, but he's been in the portal, so he's speaking with other people. That's what that's for. It'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. Jerome Hunter, yeah, that's probably going to be a 50-50. I'd say that he would be welcomed back, but that's a player that I could possibly see being replaced with another player out of the portal. Race Thompson's one he's going to try to get back, I'm sure, because I think he thinks he can help him as well and make this a better team. But they've got to get some guards somewhere. They're going to have to bring in guards. I don't think that Christian Lander is going to be, if he stays, is going to be ready to be the guy next year. But who knows? Maybe under the tutelage, that all changes. But that's going to be key, guard play.
Do you think that Mike Woodson, being an Indianapolis inner city guy, can connect with guys like Trace and Armand Franklin, who are Indianapolis guys, in terms of, maybe selling them and getting them to stay, and his NBA background? I think Armand Franklin's a huge key in this. I know he was banged up a little bit at the end of last year, but he was kind of on the come a little bit. And I think it's going to be, especially if you lose Trace Jackson Davis, you better get him back, because if you lose both Trace and Armand, you're really going to be starting over next year from a talent, unless you can really hit some home runs in the transfer portal. I think in a perfect world, if you can somehow convince both Trace and Armand to come back, then I think you might be able to turn this quickly than you think, because you've got 2 guys that have, like I said, played together for 2 years, have some talent. You can kind of build around that in terms of, as I've said, the importance of experience now. We went through the one and done phase, right, with Kentucky and with Duke, but I'm telling you right now, you look at the teams now that are making runs, they're experienced and there's continuity there, especially at like a Baylor team with Davion Mitchell, who came from the transfer portal but has been there 2 years, with Jared Gonzaga. Gonzaga has brought in some transfers, and I mean, Suggs has been an impact freshman, and Andrew Nemhard, the former Florida point guard who looked terrific on Sunday, is a transfer portal guy, but Timmy has been there a couple of years. Kispert, I mean, yeah, it's about getting old and staying old and having an experienced team now. That's a real key. So that's why I think it's critical to either get Armand and Trace back, and if you can get them both back, I mean, that'd be a home run.
Absolutely, like I said, and it's going to be interesting to see who does come back, who stays, and or doesn't, and what they do with the transfer portal. But I've long said I think this team could be an NCAA tournament team next year. They've got the pieces they need to add to, but they've got the building blocks that they need, the foundations they need. Armand Franklin, like you pointed out, huge.
if Trace and Armando come back, I think it's I think it's going to be really hard to say they're an NCAA tournament. But if they can convince them both to come back, I think that there's
it definitely hinges on them. But I think that there will be a great improvement. That's the one thing that we didn't see over the last 4 years is improvement, player development. I guarantee you the player development, I'm not going to say in one off season and 1 year you're going to see it, but there is absolutely no way the player development is not going to skyrocket. These guys have done nothing but work with the best in the world at this. They know what they're doing as far as developing talent. That's not a question. Whether talent is going to be developed in Indiana, it will. And that makes a better team. Then you got to add the other stuff, game planning and all that. But there were so many things that were just not there with Archie Miller. They weren't prepared. They weren't developed. The game plan sucked. So how the hell are you going to win? That's just not a winning combination. Yeah. Now you have a potential winning combination. Pieces got to be put back together.
And as I've often said, Jim, the key to playing hard, getting kids to play hard and to buy in, is to have a plan that works. I mean, that's kind of the chicken and the egg argument. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're not having success. It's going to be hard for kids to, go hard for you. You got to have a plan that works, and the kids are going to buy. Look at Terry Moore and what she's done, and those kids play hard for her because they know that she has a plan that's successful.
Justin Smith in Arkansas, I think they lost last night. So they're done, but a great run. And look what happened to Justin Smith. There you go. Eric Musselman used him exactly how he wanted to use him and how Archie couldn't get him to do. He took a lot less three-point shots. He had 11 offensive rebounds in that game.
Saturday night, I was there. Yeah, he was terrific. I mean, on the boards, he was unbelievable. And I remember I asked Davis about that after the game, and he was talking about how, he just loved his ability to crash the boards. And if he had 4 fouls, he was going to crash the boards, and he wouldn't care if he got a 5th foul. And it was good to see for Justin. And he got a lot of airtime. I saw on Monday they did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and talked to him. And good to see. He's always intelligent kid, smart kid, and I'm glad it worked out for him there his senior year over in Arkansas, even though Indiana fans, I'm sure, are a little upset about that. But
we got to hit a break. I know there's been talk of Geronimo. He may be one that doesn't come back, but we'll see. He's far. He is.
Why are people making a big deal about Al Durham? They had a senior day for him. He was out the door anyway. Why are they considering him a transfer port? That to me is ridiculous. He was going to go.
Gives people something to complain about. Hey, we're not complaining. We got lots more coming up here from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Any More Honda. We're back with more right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less.
Al Durham.
Gives them something to complain about.
I was reading there was a 24/7 article that said that 7 Indiana players were in the transfer portal. So I'm looking at this article, Tim, and they're counting that walk-on guy that left in October in the transfer portal. What was that walk-on's name? Something, and I'm come on, it's ridiculous. Parker Stewart never played a minute. It's you're doing it for effect.
Should I ask if Christian has met with any other teams?
Met with Louisville. Is that right?
Well, that's what I heard. Is that the only one?
Yeah. How about
spoken with
coming on?
Who?
Chronic Hoosier. I sent him the link earlier, but I haven't heard from him.
Not today. He can't make it today. We'll probably squeeze him in tomorrow at 10.
Did you? By the way, Louisville. Did you see that? You see that Howard? You see that Howard Schnellenberger died over the weekend? That was kind of sad.
Yeah, because dude, when I was in school here, I went home for the summer to do an internship at the CBS TV station in Louisville, WOKY, which that area is where I was from anyway. But I ended up getting a job while I was there that summer, anchoring overnight news. So I didn't come back to Bloomington. I just stayed and finished at IUS, Indiana University Southeast down there, and just stayed at the station, stayed on, and started working there. And then left and started my TV career, but I got to start. That's when Howard Schnellenberger came to Louisville.
Yep.
I remember his first. We were at a press conference over at the old Louisville Cardinals stadium that's now torn down.
Yeah, the baseball game. Yeah.
But I will never forget. Hold on, this is going to be pretty good. Tell me how accurate this is.
Yep.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course for the national championship. The only variable is time.
Time. Yep.
I needed my pipe. He had a pipe. The University of Louisville is on a collision course for the national championship. The only variable is time. Right. First of all, what a freaking great statement. We laughed his ass off, but man, Petrino had them a offside penalty away from playing for the national championship in 08, I think, or whatever it was.
Dine and to play.
But that
we offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Back to the Golf Company Du Bois Studios on this Tuesday, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, the number one Honda dealer.
We got a little 80s there, and speaking of the 80s, which decade I grew up, big birthday coming up, Tim, on Thursday. Getting old.
Yours? Happy birthday! Happy early birthday! Everybody, make sure you wish. And
it's a
happy birthday.
It's a landmark one. I'm feeling my roots a little bit.
Wondering what the staff will be. Before we get to that, though, you brought up Howard Schnellenberger. Was that in the break?
The great Howard Schnellenberger, yes, from my days at the University of Miami. I wasn't there when he was there, but I remember watching the documentary to you about how he used to leave his pipe for recruits, the ones that he liked.
I forgot about that. Dude, when he got to Miami, it was a crap hole. It was a dump. I mean a dump. They played in a dump. They had nobody coming. And wow, what he built. He should have stayed there and never went to the USFL. But man, oh man, I was so fortunate when I was starting my career. I was from Southern Indiana, but I had gotten an internship at WLKY with Fred Calgill at CBS in Louisville. And over that summer, I ended up getting an on-air job with them, an actual anchoring job, so I ended up staying down there, and that's when Schnellenberger came, and then I got to cover his weekly Tuesday press conferences, and he was just a character beyond characters. Always had this pipe and spoke in just flowing language. He made this just unbelievable, bashful statement. The University of Louisville is on a collision course for the national championship. The only variable is time. John, I wish you could pull that up and play that, and we'll see how close I really was. But he was a master. But he can't, and will never get into the Hall of Fame, Kevin, because there is a requirement. Is it 50 or 60% winning percentage? And he is just under that because he built Louisville, he built Miami, he built Louisville, and he built Florida Atlantic from the ground up.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of rough seasons in the beginning, and it affected his record. And I think that's ridiculous. I mean, take a look at this. You know, it's got to be more subjective than that. I mean, than an actual number. I mean, give me a break.
Well, yeah, because you would think that. Well, that's where you used to have the Veterans Committee or whatever it is, but I don't know if that affects the requirements there. But yeah, that's a case that. Crazy. Let's see. When do we get out to all right, craziest, because we'll do overtime, we'll talk about the other stuff, but what's your craziest sports celebrity accidental run into?
Yeah, I was thinking about my craziest celebrity run into was at Reagan Airport. I ran into who's the guy from Law and Order, Sam Waterston. I ran into him at Reagan Airport. And that was pretty cool. And people were going over and doing selfies. And I remember There was I remember I told him, I said I miss Jerry Orbach. Remember, because he had died of cancer about 5 or 7 years earlier. He said, "Me too." I didn't ask for a selfie, but I mentioned that to him, and I thought that was really cool. Sam Waterston at
well, you're from New York. You should have. You should have gotten a selfie. You're from New York. My sports, my just an accidental weird sports run into was I used to compete in pro rodeo and for a long time, and I was lucky to work in the media department during the National Finals Rodeo each year in Las Vegas. And one year I'm leaving, and I had a friend with me, and I'm leaving at 5 a.m. Just leaving the hotel, getting in the cab, and I get in the front seat. My friend gets in the back, and there's a guy behind me with a ball cap and some glasses. I just turn around and say, because there's a long line, I'm like, dude, if you're going to the airport, you can jump in with us. He's like, all right, thanks. And he jumps in. And so I'm in the front seat, and then those two are in the back seat. And my friend is dumb about sports, and he's wanting to talk to this guy. And I'm like, I ain't want to talk to anybody. It's 5 a.m. I just want to get to the airport. He's asking him, what you do? What are you doing out here? It's all, I was just out here just looking at somebody. What do you do? Oh, I'm a football coach. Yeah, where do you coach? Oklahoma. Yeah, what do you do there? Well, I'm the head coach. I just turned around my friend was saying, what's your name? And I just turned around and said, Bob Stoops. I was like, it was Bob Stoops. I had no idea he'd gotten in the cab with us. That's when he was still coaching, of course. But that's my crazy accidental run-in. But I think we're going to start more of those happening in Bloomington now. Did you notice that didn't happen with Archie? There was nobody stopping by. None of the players weren't stopping by. But there's nobody else stopping by. There's no fanfare. A place like Indiana, there should always be fanfare going on.
The night return was really cool right before the pandemic, right in 2020. And Mike Woodson was there, if you remember. He was one of the spearheads of people that we talked to, along with Randy Whitman and everything. And that was really neat, seeing everyone come back for Bob Knight and for his return to Assembly Hall. That was pretty cool. And then, of course, you saw Knight in the golf cart, right, in 2019, about 2 years ago, when he was at the baseball stadium.
Last interview. I got the first and last interview with Bob Knight on the IU campus at the same time by a reporter. I will cherish that for the rest of my life. Yeah, you know what? I guess we'll wait till overtime to talk about it, but no, maybe not. We'll talk about the other stuff. Hey, I put out a story last week on Thad Matta and got blasted to holy hell. Had a word, probably, if I could go back and just change a word on it, I would definitely do that. But it said that Thad Matta and Indiana had met, talked, and were in agreement. And I said that he had failed a physical, and actually it was just a physical. He was physically incapable of doing the job, is how it turned out to be. But we were basically right on the story. But I got blasted by several people in the media. Kevin was not one of those. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. But I was a little surprised to see that, not waiting for the facts to come out.
Yeah, why would people like shoot down somebody else's story that works hard and that's around the program? Like, I don't get that, other than their own vanity. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't confirm what you reported, but I wasn't going to shoot it down. I wasn't going to write a story shooting it down, because to me, it's like you put into work and all right, let's see what happened. And it turned out you were vindicated to a great degree. And the fact that Thad Matta is connected with this program, you knew that there was something there. Now, semantics, whether you got it completely right, I mean, that's, it was the physical, but it was still along the right track. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the physical. He didn't take a physical. It was physically incapable. If I would have simply said couldn't pass a physical, that makes that statement correct. The entire statement is correct. Every bit of it. So, but yeah, it was just, but there was one particular that railed me on 2 radio shows, and in a large paper. I'll let you figure that out. But the thing that cracked me up most was that very same person reported just a couple of days ago in an article that they wrote, and I would like to read exactly what they wrote. Let's see. During But the IU search has been busy with Dolson including former players like Mike Woodson, perhaps as a courtesy, perhaps as legitimate second-tier candidate. He called him a second-tier candidate. Should some of the more attractive names pop out, blah, blah, blah. The search has been thorough with former Butler and Ohio State coach Thad Matta getting real consideration early into the process before both sides decided, no, he's probably not healthy enough to handle the rigors of the job. That's from the guy who blasted me on 2 stations and in that article. You figure out who it is. But that's aggravating to me.
And I would be too,
do that. But oh well. It got more attention, so I'll take that. But and I'll take his apology the first time I see him. But that said, looking forward to more games coming up. And let's see. Tonight, what do we have tonight? 2 more games tonight.
Gonzaga, USC.
UCLA, Michigan. That is such an intriguing game. I'm pulled in 2 directions, and it's time to go, right? So it's time to get out of the radio side. So we'll continue to do that on the overtime period. But for those of you listening to us on the radio, we appreciate you guys. Go out, have yourselves a great day. We've got more coming up tomorrow, of course. Dylan Sin, Cal Nedenrip, Bob Kravitz. See what else we can scare up. If you're staying on for the overtime period, just we'll keep going. But everybody else, we appreciate you guys. Go out and have yourselves a nice day. Thanks a lot to Kevin Brockway, to the great Don Fischer, and Mike DeCourcy. I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on, I already say, wear your mask, do something nice for somebody. Until tomorrow, I'll see you on the radio.
See you on the radio. We got a, we got a football Zoom at 11, so we'll kind of.
Okay, we'll be out.
45.
We'll be out. Yeah. I didn't know we had any football Zooms this week. I thought they canceled them.
Yeah, we got Miles Marshall at 11. Yeah,
we'll get out. We'll get out here quick. Let's see. Here's a great question. Did Miller ever come on this show? He is the only coach to never come on this show. He is the only IU coach to not come on the show. But he didn't just not come on this show. He didn't do. He did the hysterics, those hysterics goofs that are not media. They're just fan.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous, and he was on Jeff Goodman's daughter's show.
Well, let me go. He did those hysteric goofs because they paid money to attend his $5,000 Victor Oladipo camp.
Oh yeah,
that's the kind of guy Archie is. Then he did Jeff Goodman's daughter because Goodman is a national guy. He did nothing with the IU media during the pandemic, especially. He did, but never. So no, I could not be happier that he is gone. Let me tell you that.
Here's the thing about Archie, right? If like he was the only kind of guy, like if you could do something for him, he's one of those like new school coaches. If you could do something for him, he was going to help you, but you had to be of use to him for him to do a favor for you. And the mark of a true person, integrity is doing something for someone and not expecting anything in return. And that was opposite Archie Miller.
Say what you want about Tom Green. He help somebody change a damn tire in the snow one time, and there's other things that he did. Worse, you saw him in the community. He represented Indiana.
Hey, great comment here. Yeah.
Archie Miller represented Archie Miller.
Exactly. Great comment here, Jeremy Davis. People worried about coach recruiting you to collegiate coach and walk into the kid's house with 33 years of 11 years as a player, 22 years of coaching and connecting. Like he talked about yesterday, he has a story to tell coming from inner city Indianapolis, being what he's been through and how he's made him and how Indiana helped make himself into a successful person. I think that's, yeah.
Another Bob Knight released a statement. We didn't talk about that. I forgot to talk about that, but he released a statement at least giving his support, of course, to Mike Woodson. Wouldn't expect anything less. So that would be expected, and that would be so cool. I don't know if it'll be able to happen, but it would really, really be cool if Bob Knight was able to come back for Mike Woodson's first game. I don't know if that would take too much away from it, or they could have him up in the 76 suite. So, but that would be incredible. Fish was on earlier, Chris, and just go back to the start of the show and when we're done and listen to it. But he was had a lot to say. I'm looking forward to I'm listening to that again myself. So boom, there's that. Whoops, didn't mean to hit that. Okay, so next we've got to figure out or find out the players that are staying and the assistant coaches that are coming. Mike Woodson's got a lot of work to do, Kevin, and he's got a lot of work to do quickly. The first of which, though, he's got to do both of those things, but I'm going to bet you Thad Matta is either working on a staff and Mike Woodson is talking to the players.
Yeah.
Or he's doing both at the same time.
You know,
as much as do some time management.
As much as we did talk about Armand and Trace and so forth and everything like that, whether they're going to stay and whether they're going to go, because I think those are the two keys. I mean, you know, people saying that Al Durham was out the door anyway. I mean, come on, he had his senior day and stuff. But there are going to be about 800 players in the transfer portal, so you can. It's going to be like NBA free agency. It's going to be crazy. You can. I mean, there's a chance if you get the right guys and they're about the right things and they play together, then maybe you can turn it quickly, even if those two leave. But it's going to take some really good evaluation and a really good eye for it. And if Mike, you know, given his NBA experience, he surrounds himself with good people, you know, maybe it can happen. Maybe a new cast of characters will be a good thing in terms of, you know.
Look at what Nate Oates did at Buffalo. Come on, man. He did it quick. How long was he at Buffalo?
2-3 years, yeah, but it's a different conference. It's a different level.
I get that, but he left there and immediately did it at Alabama. Alabama was not a great team. When he got
I
there.
will say this, though. Avery Johnson recruited that kid Herb Jones and John
They did
Petty.
have some good recruits. Yeah.
He inherited some good players, but he mixed in his own. Javon Quinterly, a very good player. They, like I said, Alabama should have won like 11-25 from the free throw line. I mean, that just killed them. I mean, because they were the more athletic, they were the better team, but every time they got to the free throw line, they couldn't convert. You know, it was ridiculous.
But that shows you, look at Alabama. They're wanting to be a winner in basketball. They went away from Avery Johnson. I haven't busted that one out for a hot minute, man.
One of the nicest guys. I dealt with him in Blue Ribbon, though. One of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet, but was just, you know, not a good recruiter, just not a good enough coach to get it done. And
Tim says, I saw Crean feeding the homeless on a curb at McDonald's one day. Yeah, I don't think Archie would dump a bucket of water on a burning person. Unless somebody
kind of a recruit, you know.
Unless somebody handed him the bucket, took it back, and dumped it for him.
Exactly. I'll never forget our first year on the beat, like, you know, Bruiser Flint sipping Chardonnay with that recruiting guy, Brian Snow. Like, how ridiculous was that? You know, it's like you're using him to help you recruit. That's why you're in the position you were in, you know.
Demezy Anderson is all I have to say. That's who he recommends. Well, that particular person
over Aaron Henry, right? Yeah.
Did you know that particular person that you're speaking of is no longer with 247?
Where did he go?
He is allegedly joining a college basketball staff as recruiting analyst.
Oh, geez.
I think it's safe to say a lot of was fed to Archie, because Archie doesn't know any better. I don't think Archie knows any better. And a lot of it was fed to him by those certain people, and it didn't pan out. So that's
exactly like, it's like, you know, trust your own instinct, trust your own
He
eye.
didn't have any instincts. I don't think he has. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's a good coach. I've been saying it for a year. If you've listened to the show, I've said it for over a year. People know that. I don't think he can coach. He's a systems coach. He implemented this system that he thought it worked at a low level. Well, it'll work here. No, it doesn't. You can't run the ball because that's what you do. If you've got a Peyton Manning and a Reggie Wayne, you throw the damn ball. But he can't do that. He has a script that someone has given him, and that's what we do. You know what it reminds me of? The Water Boy and Henry Winkler's character. That book that he had, those plays, when the other guy took the plays away, he had nothing. He didn't know what to do. That is Archie Miller. What? Oh my God, what was that coach's name in that? Henry Winkler's character. That is Archie Miller right there in a nutshell.
Well, that was great. That scene where he's wearing the high heels and he has the phone cut off. And
well, I'm not saying that, but
Winkler, that was such a fun. And then, of course, the greatest line ever in that movie is Dan Fouts and Brent Musburger doing the call. And Brent Musburger, I know, and then Dan saying, "Shut up, Brent."
Yeah, it's a great one. Just my favorite movie, of course, is The Big Lebowski. So we're getting way off target. I could go all day on lines from that movie, and maybe that's something we should do one day. Have some fun. And we're going to have to do that. Well, we'll have plenty of time to do that over the summer. And that's exactly the kind of stuff we need to do sometime.
Don't drive on the Shabbos. Like, remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shabbos. But yeah, that's absolutely one of my. Just like throwing those lines out. I have to get John to start throwing some good clips in. Once we get everything worked out, and new producer John, he can start busting some clips in every now and then from different things and liven things up. Let's see. I think that's about all the questions that we have.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course with the national championship.
You got to restart that.
Great clip.
Hold.
This is Howard Schnellberger.
Finish the sentence, which says the University of Louisville is on a collision course with the national championship, and the only variable is time.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course with the national championship. The only variable is time. That was not his original statement. He was repeating it there, but it was just great. It was great.
Yeah. Dan Lebitard, when he started his show in South Florida in Miami, he used to have a fake Schnellenberger guy call into his show. And they had this great drop about when he was in Florida Atlantic, because they started out at this small spring training stadium, Lockhart Stadium. And he had, his motivational speak. When you see those 500 people in the stands, including vendors selling hot dogs, you'll remember this moment.
Over the line! Fucking zero, dude. John Leskowski is a great storyteller. I'm going to try to get with John, or I've already texted him about it, but he is a great storyteller. Last time we did the show, he dropped the nugget that the first non-IU graduate to be hired as IU basketball coach was Bob Knight, Kevin.
How about that?
That was a pretty cool. Then last night on the show, talking about Mike Woodson, he met with Mike Woodson yesterday in Thad Matta, which was amazing. And the fact that we almost had him on the show, that's even more amazing. But the Mike Woodson couldn't afford to go to a Bob Knight camp, and a teacher back then paid for that.
Yeah, he told that story in the press conference. Yeah,
it's good. It's just the John Leskowski has 1,000 of those, and oh my gosh, he meets with Coach Knight every week, and that would be. I just love talking to John Leskowski. He's just one of those guys. Like I said, Don Fischer too, but not as much as John. John's been there. He was inside the whole time. It's incredible to listen to him. John has got to have to write a book. I'm going to make him write a book.
Got to stop by his Culver's, right? Get a little spicy.
I'm definitely going to. I love the spicy chicken. I love the spicy chicken. I may go there today and have some. But, man, I guess let's just wrap it up. And you'll have to head out to Yogi's. We were there last night having some mini corn dogs. But looking forward to coming back tomorrow. Dylan Cinnabon, Kyle Neddenrip, Bob Kravitz. We'll see what else we can get scared up. What do you got coming up? Of course, you're going to the game tonight, Michigan, UCLA. I'm not going to ask you who you pick. I'm going Michigan, man. I think that UCLA's been on a magical run. But Michigan's kind of pissed off, and they played really well in their last game, even without Isaiah Livers, and I think that they're locked in.
Yeah, and I think, too, UCLA, I think sooner or later you got to figure playing that extra game in the first four is going to catch up to them, and I think tonight might be that night where it catches up to them a little bit, in terms of the energy they've expended. They played 2 overtime games. It's gonna be pretty hard, but I'll tell you what, Mick Cronin has done a unbelievable job with that group.
Feel free to send that. All right, brother, you're right. Can't thank you enough as always, and can't thank everybody else listening as much as always, man. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow to do it again. Without you, no reason to be here. But for Kevin and everyone else on the program today, Don, and damn it, Mike DeCourcy, almost forgot. I'm Jim Coyle. Make sure you do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask, and until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.